Hi everyone. Today we will see how to use Amazon Comprehend, which is a natural language processing service from Amazon to perform certain tasks. For example, let's say if you have a document, now those documents could be your customer support tickets, it could be your product reviews, emails, social media, anything. How to extract, let's say, certain entities from those particular documents. Now here entities could be, let's say, the name of the person, location, or let's say you are dealing with the banking support, right? So their entities could be the account number or maybe some other particular things, mentioned as per your domain. So how do you extract those entities, and also extracting certain key phrases, finding the sentiment. So those all natural language processing tasks you can do without worrying about building your own machine learning model, deploying them and all these things, right? You can use this particular thing just as a service or using Python library. You can use this particular thing. So that's what we're going to see today. So let's first of all, if you want to, have a look again. So this is what it works. Once you have all the documents coming from the different channels and sources, you can even upload those documents to Amazon S3, and from the Amazon S3, Amazon Comprehend, which is natural language processing service, can take that particular document, extract, the things that you are interested. For example, key phrases, entities, sentiment, and all these things, and maybe you want to store those extracted values into the database, like maybe Amazon, any Amazon database, and then finally you can build some kind of a dashboard on top of it, give insights to your, let's say, product owners, and all these things you can do. So today we will see a simple demo. How do we access this Amazon Comprehend using Python and perform, certain tasks which is mentioned here. So first thing, right, you can log into the console. Since I have already logged in, here, and you can see this is my account which I have logged in. Here you could see a region. When you do anything on Amazon, you will be having a particular a geographical region, or you can select there are some regions. So I'm currently in the US East one. This is particular region. This is important because when you go into programmatically access, you might want to specify which region you want to access from. So let's go. You can even search here, right? The comprehend. Here you'll see, right? We are able to search Amazon Comprehend, and when you go to the landing page of it, you can see, launch Amazon Comprehend. You can even see what it's pricing, and there are some good documentation, right? What you can do with all this stuff. So let's click on the launch, Comprehend, and there are two ways you can use it. You can do real-time analysis, or you might want to do a batch analysis kind of thing. I think, yeah, you can do your batch analysis. So let's think of, let's say, real time. So whenever you make a request, you want to see the output. That's a real time thing. And then, since let's say you are extracting certain entities, sentiment, and all these things, you can have two things. You can use their built-in model, which they have already trained, or you might want to use your own custom models that you can train. So for now, we're going to focus on how do we use, the built-in models which are already available there, and just access them programmatically. So here is the console where you can, see first of all how that thing work. Let's say in the context of, you can try your any text and see whether it, works for your particular use case, and maybe then you want to try it programmatically. So you can put any text here, and you can click on analyze. And once you analyze, you see here is the insights you get using the Amazon Comprehend. So the first column here you will see entities. Then you have key phrases and maybe the language detected of this particular text. This is PI call maybe personal identifiable information, and the sentiment. These all things are there. We will see how to access them programmatically. Now, since we are on entities tab, you can see what entities it has found from this sample text. So it has found this particular entity, and the type of the entity is person. This seems to be a name of the person. You can even click here and see the details. Similarly, this is also person. Now this seems to be identified as some kind of an organization name. Let's see what is this thing. This it couldn't identify any particular type, so it did classified as an other. Let's see about this thing. Yeah, this is a location because it seems to be some street name. So this is how it is able to identify entities from the text, and then you can build your own logic on top of it once you have those particular entities. Now, similarly, as I mentioned, now this document could be your insurance document, this could be your banking support ticket, and you want to identify certain things like maybe the account number or maybe the mobile number of customer. It could be anything, that all these things you can identify. Similarly, you can identify certain key phrases from it. So it has detected key phrases, even the name has been marked as a key phrases, right? The organization name, your payment, due date, all these things, right? This has been marked as some kind of key phrases or important terms in your document. And if you look at the language, it has saying that it is mostly a English language text. What is this PII? Which is personally identifiable information, and you can see we have like the names which are definitely personally identifiable because you can identify people by their name and by their email ID. Is all these things, right? This is also you can identify any street by their name. So these are all identifiable information. I'm not sure how much this street and all this makes sense, but yeah, it depends on the business use case. But definitely the names of the people, their email IDs, their mobile number, these are all personally identifiable information, right? So this is how usually it works. You can try here, but that's not an objective. We want to try it outside of it. We want to access it programmatically, and that's what we're going to do here, right? So let's go to the Google Colab notebook that I have created. So whenever you interact with programmatically any AWS service, whether it could be Amazon, it could be S3, or it could be any other service, right? There is a library called Boto3 from Amazon, and using this Boto3 library, you can access any particular service. And today we're going to access this comprehend service, right? So this is the documentation link for the Boto3. Here you will have more detailed documentation how to access any particular thing. Usually syntax is boto3.client, the name of the service that you are interested. Once you got the client for that particular service, and then you can make request and do a lot of things. For example, here classifying some document, or these are all things, and some of them we're going to look at, right? For example, detect sentiment, detect personally identifiable information, detect these key phrases, entities. This is what we're going to see in our example, right? So, but before accessing this thing programmatically, you need to have access to this thing, right? So this is our account. So first of all, you need to have a access key or a secret key if you want to, use it. For example, if you see, if you want to access any Amazon services, you need to provide these particular things. For example, the region name, that what I told you initially, right? Which region you are accessing that particular service from, and then your access key ID, and then the secret key. If you don't have, this is how you're going to create it. You can search for, let's say, I am role here, or I am, and if you hover it here, you can see users. So we're going to create a specific user which has access to this comprehend, and then we will generate things for it. So let's click on add users. Give some username. Maybe I will give the name the same. What is this particular thing, right? Maybe let me copy this spelling. Let's say call it as a comprehend user. And then how do you want to give access to this user? Maybe I will keep it as small. Yes. Okay. How do you want to give access to this user, programmatically or using the management console that what you're currently looking at? So let's say we are interested only to give a programmatic access to this particular user so that I can get the access key ID and the secret key. So let's click on next permission. Now here you can attach certain permissions to user. If you're not familiar with all this stuff, no problem. You can go and read about what is IAM rules. I'm also not that much into it. I just do things which I require to do particular task. For example, here you can see attach existing policies, and you can search any Amazon service that you want to give access to this particular user. Now we are interested in this comprehend service. If you search comprehend, you will see comprehend full access. So let's give this user a comprehend full access so that it can access it programmatically. Next tab, maybe I want to attach any tags here. Let's look at the review. Now we got this user called comprehend user, and we have given it a programmatic access with this particular functionality it has access to. Let's create user. So once you create the user successfully, you can see we got some access key ID and the secret key. You can even see secret key, right? So this is what we're going to use. So let's copy first of all the access key, okay? And let's copy this access key and paste it here, access key ID. Similarly, we will also copy the the secret key. So let me copy this thing, and I'm just going to paste it here. Now we should have access to comprehend using this particular service, right? So first we can install the Boto3 library. I should have installed it, um, yeah. So once you install this thing, this is what you can import Boto3. Then use the Boto3 client, provide information, service name, region, access key ID, secret key. And once you have everything fine, we will get the client and then trying to represent the comprehend, right? That's what it is. Now let's use the first thing. So once you have this client, you can call it anything. I just call it client. And it has a function, since it is comprehend, it has a function called detect sentiment. You can pass any text. So I took this review from the same AWS documentation. So this is some review related to, I think, maybe related to the some work, maybe it could be some book. Okay, so this review we got, and we want to we store that review in the text variable, and then we call this particular endpoint or a function called client.detect sentiment, and then we pass what text we want to detect, and what is our language of our text. So language is English, we want to detect. So let's run this thing, and it should give us response. So we got a response. In the response, we got what is the final sentiment of this, because we detect sentiment, right? What is the sentiment? Sentiment is positive, and even you can see sentiment score for different thing. What was the neutral, positive, and all this thing. You can see it is very highly confident about that 99% that it is a kind of a positive text. So that is how you will use sentiment without worrying about deploying model and anything. You can just access it like any Python library, right? Now, once you have sentiment, you can also do a thing called detect dominant language. So if you have text, maybe the mix of languages. For example, here you could see we have something in English and then we have something in Hindi, right? And then you can find which is the dominant language of this particular document. So again, we store that particular text. So when I say document, it could be just a text. Now, as I mentioned, that text could be anything. It could be your social media post, news article, your customer support, anything we can call it as a document in the context of, let's say, natural language processing. Now we store the document text into this text variable, and then we call this detect dominant language, and let's see what we get into the response. We got languages, and HI actually stands for Hindi. This particular, for English we have this EN. We saw it somewhere, right? Yeah, this is the code we have, right? So it is able to identify that the dominant language in this particular text seems to be Hindi, right? Now let's see the next thing. What we can do with finding entity. This is the most useful thing actually, because when you have any business, you want to adjust. For example, as I told you, if you're dealing with the banking related customer support ticket, you might want to extract maybe the user mobile number, their email, their account ID, or their credit card number. It could be anything with respect to your business. If it is related to, let's say, healthcare data, you might want to identify the patient, let's say maybe the patient symptoms, any medicine name mentioned, any experiment perform, whatever, right? Or test perform, you want to extract. So those are called custom name entity recognition. And we're going to see how does this particular thing works, right? So similarly, we're going to call a client detect entities. So I took this some snippet, which I took it from this particular news article, which actually talk about some festival and pollution after festival, something like it talking about. So this is what I stored in this variable text, and let's see what we are able to get out of it. In the response, you can see this response again, it is a dictionary, but it has a field called entities, and that entities is actually list. So we are getting the list of entities. What is one entity look like? You see, this is how one entity look like, which is again a dictionary. So each entity has some score associated with the type of the entity. So this seems to be a location. What exactly the entity is? The Delhi NCR. So Delhi NCR has been identified as a location type of entities. And even you could know in this text where that entity is located. So it is saying that if you count this character, it is starting at the 140th character and it is ending on 149th character. So this is where you can find where it is located. For example, you might want to build a visualization tool on top of it. So once it is found, you might programmatically highlight in a different color or a different background that particular thing, right? That's what you can use this. So this is how you can extract all these entities. So what I will do, we will look at this in a tabular format. Since we got it is in the variable called entities, which is actually a list of dictionaries, right? So I'm just importing a pandas here. And what we can create the pandas data frame and simply pass those list of dictionary. So if you pass a list of dictionary to the pandas data frame function, it will simply create data frame, because each dictionary will act like a one row, right? So let's run this thing, and we should see in a tabular format. So this is what we got, tabular format. Each entity has a score, type, text when it begins, and you could see we have identify a location which is Delhi NCR. This is interesting. We have identified Diwali as an event name. This is good. Organization. This has been organization. This is something to be, it required some again post processing, because the person, this is the single entity actually, doctor, this particular name of the person, but it has been marked as the two entities differently. So in the post processing, you might want to apply some custom logic to make sure these two entities are of the actually it is the same thing, doctor and that particular person name. And there are certain entities that it couldn't identify. For example, this is the asthma. This is maybe some kind of a medical condition or disease, right? And this diabetes is also one kind of a disease or medical condition, but it is not able to attach any particular custom type. So that's why it is saying other. This is where custom name entity recognition comes into the picture. Since let's say this is related to the medical related terms, you can create own custom entity recognition model which is capable of identifying, let's say, the disease name, the medical condition, symptoms, medicine names, and everything, right? And you could do this thing using even this comprehend. Maybe in the next video, I might show how to train your own custom entity model. But if you want to learn how to build your own custom name entity recognition model using, let's say, Python and natural language processing, so I have already created one video which is Spacey name entity recognition. What I will do, I will put a link to that video in the description so you can go and see how you can build yourself a machine learning model which is capable of identifying diseases and all this thing, right? That's you can go and check. Now, the next thing, as we identify entities, let's also identify the key phrases. Again, very simple, detect key phrases, and we should get in the response the key phrases or the important terms it has identified. And seems to be it has identified the winter season is one of the term. This matter, not sure how much. The good parts. This seems to be questionable. Like I'm not sure how good it is. Identifying these key phrases, kind of things, right? Maybe for us the important thing is the entities, but this is how you can identify certain key phrases if you want to highlight from the document, right? Seems to be some kind of a consultant and a practice name or a doctor. I'm not sure what exactly this thing. Just like we say orthopedics or something like that. So it has find those air pollution is one of the term it has found, lung disease it has found, right? So there are certain things which we were not able to find in the entities, those are captured here. But as I told you again, you could create your own custom name entity recognition model, depends to your business, and you can identify all of them. Similarly, let's look at them at a tabular format. So we know that this key phrases is actually a list of dictionary where each dictionary is one row that we can show in our pandas data frame. That's what we'll do. And this is what you could see. We got this lung disease or some all this thing, right? And here you don't have any type associated it, because if it is able to associate the type, you should see it here. Fine. So now we got those key phrases and all this thing. What is the last thing we could do? Yeah, the last thing we could do is like, since if you have a text, find the personally identifiable information. Now this is also important. For example, let's say you're doing some processing on your data, and you want to automatically mask any personally identifiable information. For example, the name of the person. You're doing some research. You're giving your data to someone to process. You don't want to expose your patient names or their account details or their mobile number. So what you will do? You can use service like this which detect those all entities which could be personal identifiable information, and you can programmatically mask them. Maybe you can hide them, maybe you can replace them with some different word, right? That's what you could do. So let's see what are all information we are able to find which can be identifiable. So seems to be there are two things. There is one address which can be identified, and there is the name of the person which can be identified. But here, this particular function doesn't return what exactly that value, but it is telling us where it is located, so we can just see ourselves. So since our text is just a string, and we can access any string with the starting index and ending index, and let's see what is this first thing. Right? So we can simply say text, which is Delhi NCR, which is the location, right? So we can, simply programmatically iterate through it, and we can find out, right? So let's say we know that this response, right? Let's look at how this response look like. First of all, response has a field called entities, which is again the list of entities. So we can, use for loop, iterate through our entities, response of entities, and then what we will do for each entity, we know we got type, right? So we store the entity type here in this variable called entity type. Now we want to find out that exact value. This is where we do that same thing. We have our text, we have our starting index, we have our ending index, and we can extract programmatically, right? So this is what we are doing. So we are using that same text, and then this is our starting index, which is coming in the entity begin offset colon. This is the ending index or the end offset. So this is how programmatically you can find out, and I'm just making sure they are integers. And if I run this thing, we can see we are able to iterate through our responses and just print what we want, entity type address and its actual value. So this is how you can use. Now, once you have these powerful tools at your hand, you can build any intelligent document processing system as per your business use cases, right? This is pretty useful. As a freelancer, I get many such requirements, to build this kinds of document intelligence system for a client business. And a lot of time, they don't want to spend building their own machine learning model. Rather, they want to use any powerful machine learning service like this from Amazon, which is Amazon Comprehend, and build it quick and fast. That's what most of the time people used to prefer. So I hope you found this video useful. As I said, if you want to, this is more of like using a library and API. But if you want to, make your hands dirty to hands on and build your own machine learning model, I'm going to put link into the description. Try building your own custom name entity recognition model. And as in future, I might want to take some use case and actually perform this thing rather than, showing this very simple table. So I hope so I'm able to, I will create some kind of a use case to show you how to use these services to build some real application kind of thing. I hope you found this video useful. If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe. Thank you.